Hey everyone, my name is Lamar with MidRank Interactive. I'm excited about this episode with Karlyn. This is a special guest of ours on the healthcare marketing podcast. Karlyn runs Snap Social, and would love for you to just open up and give some insights on who you are, your background, and where you're from.
Absolutely. Excited to be here. My background, I started this whole crazy journey of entrepreneurship about 8 years ago, building it on the side. I
Nice.
have always done social media. I have a degree in journalism, and that really gave me that foundation in order to be able to do what I do now. But I would say my journey, I've always been in the digital landscape. I've always loved writing, even since I was like 10 years old, filling those composition books, with all of my 10-year-old thoughts, which at the time I thought were riveting. And then I went back just, I think, a couple of years ago. My mom pulled out the box and I opened it. And I was like, okay, not as cool as I thought I was. Like, it was like, I went to the pool today. Like, cool. It wasn't anything earth shattering, but it's still fun to have the kind of those artifacts of my life. And so, social media, in a lot of ways, because it is here, at least for now and on to the future. Plus, I don't really want to be around when it goes away, if it ever goes away. Um, Kind of like a little bit of an art, like just this great archive of our businesses, our brands, and who we are. So I think it's pretty cool.
No, that's awesome. And 8 years ago, so I think we're on the same like trajectory. So like
Nice.
what month did you start your business?
July.
Okay, so I was in June. So we're
Yeah.
pretty close. So we're still
And it
thriving.
was, yeah, well, yeah, go us. Like, first of all, we've made it past whatever the 5 year mark is. So
Yep.
yay. But it was really interesting because I started it, I went all in on myself. It was the day after social media day, and like
Okay.
5 days before my 30th birthday, and I was like, this feels right. This
Yeah,
feels
that's
right.
awesome. That's awesome. You took the right step. And so
Yeah.
I mean that's the hardest step, right? And so I guess talk to us about, you mentioned social media. Give us a little insights on Snap Social and what that means.
Yeah, so OSNAP Social, we are an agency helping our clients, whether they're brick and mortar businesses, small business owners, and recently we've really leaned into the authors, speakers, TEDx talker space, those experts in their field, to help them not only navigate social media, because I know that you know this too, it changes every time we blink, it seems. And
Yep.
so I'm on the side of social media that I want it to remain fun. I want it to be easier for those folks that maybe don't dabble in it every day like we do, but just
Yeah.
helping people along a very simple framework from a pulse check audit to a strategy all the way through advancement stages where we're either doing it for them, doing it with them, or we give them that consulting, that brain power. They can rent our brain cells and then leverage and do it themselves. So,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
awesome. And that's so needed in today's world because we're all busy running 100 miles an hour. And
Oh,
so they
yeah.
need to really help them navigate social. And to your point, I think it'll always be here because now the younger generation, they can't get enough of it.
Oh, yeah. It's like we're
But
all addicted, whether we like to admit it or not, right?
exactly, exactly. So talk about your fan firework starter framework. Like what does
Yeah.
that mean?
The fan fire starter framework. I made it so hard for anyone to say, including myself. I also love alliteration, but that essentially is my signature framework. We walk all of our clients through it. We create an audit for them because you don't know where you want to go unless you know where you've been. And so that
Okay.
really pops the hood on your existing social media platforms and gives you recommendations that are actionable, that you could take action on the day that you get it delivered into your inbox. Uh, Now, a pulse check is nothing without a strategy.
Yeah.
And I think some of our clients are like, oh, I just want to do the pulse check. I'm like, that's amazing. But what's the next step?
Yeah.
Because this is just going to sit, collect dust in your digital bookshelf. How can you continue to move it forward? So that's where the strategy comes in. And we're really outlining from an organic perspective, right? What's our goal here? Because social media from an organic level is a very, very long game. You
Yeah.
have to be in it to win it, and you have to always be willing to kind of roll up your sleeves and be curious and run experiments. Because the algorithms, right? I'm like air quoting here. The algorithms are there to keep us kind of confused. I'm just going to say it.
Yeah.
It's just like if you are trying to do SEO, right? Same thing. You do SEO and Google's not going to give you the entire play-by-play of how to be number one on Google. Because if they did, like exposed it all, then everyone would be able to be number one on Google. Then no one would be going on Google. So
Right.
it's one of those catch-22s where, someone comes to me, they're like, can you go make me go viral? I'm like, no, I cannot. I can give you the steps that I know to work to elevate your content in order to reach the ideal audience that has the solutions and products and services that you have. And so that's
Yeah.
where that really strategy comes in, because if you don't have a goal, what's the point?
Yeah,
Especially if you're in
absolutely.
business. And then again, that advancement piece is working together to figure out what's that next step in terms of implementation. If you have someone on your team already, maybe it's a front desk person or an office manager, they might have the time, or maybe they don't because they're probably busy, you
Right.
know. Let me just keep it real because it's the
Yep.
truth, to implement that content. But they might have a few minutes every every week to just go around and snap some of that behind the scenes content that your people honestly crave. And
Yeah.
it builds trust at the same time. And where someone like me and my team, or maybe you hire a virtual assistant, different levels of expertise, let's
Yep.
just say that, can go and deploy that content for you on your behalf. So different
Awesome.
levels there.
Awesome. And I probably butchered it when I said fire starter framework. Still
Hey, I
struggling.
like the firework too. That's cool.
But I
That sounds
love
more
it.
exciting.
Yes. But I love the way you just kind of, describe that process and how you can help, business owners, no matter if they're, a one-stop shop to a big brand, to help them really,
Yep.
understand their goals from a social media standpoint. So when it comes to social media, what platforms do you focus on, or is it all of them? Just would love to kind of understand that part.
I would say majority of my clients, just the people that I've been helping, their audience tends to be more of like the buyers of a home. So they're
Okay.
not typically on TikTok. However, if they're I have a realtor friend and his audience is all the Gen Zers who are getting to be, tired of renting in this
Yeah.
crazy expensive DMV market, and they're ready to buy. So that he knows he's got to be on Instagram and TikTok,
Yeah.
right? And I would never steer him another way. Most of my clients hang out on Instagram and LinkedIn and Facebook just because they've built an audience on Facebook long term, but they don't really like Facebook. They just
Yeah.
people are there for them and they know that, so they're not going to neglect it.
Right.
But LinkedIn right now, for me, actually not right now, but for a very long time, has been my favorite place to build my personal brand and business, because that's where people pay me, which is really interesting. And Instagram is where I like to have fun.
Yeah.
So,
I
I
like
mean,
it.
there's fun to be had on both platforms, but also, if you want behind the scenes of what I do on a day-to-day basis, that's over on Instagram.
Awesome, awesome. Now that's pretty cool because they're all different, right? And they all
Oh
like their
yeah.
audiences and who will
Hmm.
engage, based on the content you submit on social or on Facebook versus
Yeah.
Instagram. So, and there's different
Yes.
strategies, right, versus imagery and video. So that definitely makes sense. So, are there three, I guess, like to be successful, are there three things that you would just say, hey, this will move the needle on social media?
Three things. The first thing is be consistent. I think we've all said this like 852 times at least in the past couple of years, but you really need to be consistent. And now I'm not here to say, okay, you have to post like every day in order to be successful. No, no, no. Find a cadence that you can sustain long term and go with that. If it's 2 posts a week, I love that for you. Do that. If it's 3 posts, I love you even more. Do that. For
Yeah.
me, I tell my clients 3 posts a week minimum. If you do anything extra, that is bonus points, cherry on top, etc. So consistency is really where it's at. The next piece is video content. Everyone's like, video, video. I'm like, we've been saying this for 8 years. Like,
Yeah.
video content has always been here, and it's always been the fastest way to build trust. And if you're in the healthcare space, building trust is important.
Oh yeah.
So you have to be willing to show your face. And I think a lot of healthcare professionals don't want to do that because it's not about them. And they would actually be correct. I think a lot of people, especially thought leaders and professionals who are so good at what they do and they have such a heart center mindset and they really want to make an impact in their community with their patients, etc. What I love is their approach is correct. You have to have that mindset of like, this is about them, not about me.
Yep.
And as soon as you keep that mindset and keep that cemented in your brain, the better your content's going to be. And you're not going to feel as shy showing up on video because, again, it's about your audience, not about you. It's about giving them that information that they need,
Yeah.
building that trust as that expert in your community and moving forward. I think a lot of us get in our heads a lot
Oh,
when
yeah.
when we're trying to like share expertise,
Yep.
because we were taught, especially a lot of us in that millennial generation, we were taught not to like boast and like be, super out there. We were taught to be like, be humble and we can still be humble and share our expertise on video. Okay. And the last thing is to have something for your audience to do next. Give them
Mm,
a call to action.
yeah.
It can be in the video content, it can be in the caption, it could be in your stories. Give them somewhere to go, something to do, something to download. Because if you don't, then yeah, it's going to be just posting for the sake of posting. What do you
Right.
want them to do? So
Right.
those are the
Right.
three things.
Right. It's funny you say that because I was talking to a doctor yesterday, and I love this specific person, and we were talking about dental implants, right? And
Yeah.
he wants to get more dental implant cases, and as we
Mm-hmm.
all know, dental implants are expensive, and
You don't even,
so
I got 40 grand in my mouth. You don't got to tell me that.
yeah, and I have six are in. I ended up losing one a couple of years ago, but yeah, that's 40 grand is a lot. But you have to educate people because if they're spending that kind of money, even though it's a pain point of like when I smile, I have gaps in my mouth, or when
Yeah.
I'm eating, my food is just getting all congested in my
Yeah.
mouth. So it's like an implant gives you confidence, right? If you're missing
Mm-hmm.
teeth,
Yeah.
but it's expensive. So you need to educate people on why they need it. Even though they need it, sometimes you have to educate more on why they need to come to you to get it. And so
Yes.
it's like, hey, we need to do some video content for this specific treatment that we're going to focus on to get you more implant cases. And there's a lot of pain points you have to build to get them to take that action to get
Oh,
them in,
yeah.
right? And the doctor's just like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't like to be on video. But to your point, you got to make it about the people you're trying to get into your practice versus, that you don't like to be on video. Because we all have a personality in some way, right? Where,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not like you're in front of an audience and you're speaking to 100 people. Like it's just you and the camera, and you're just
Yeah.
doing what you do when you're in the chair speaking to the client, right? Educating them on the implant process. So now I think that's very like you hit some really good points.
Yeah.
Um, from a social media standpoint, how do you measure that? Like how do you measure success of the content you're producing?
I think it's a challenge if you don't know what you're measure what you want to measure. I could tell you all about the impressions and the reach and the views, but like what does that doesn't mean anything
Yeah,
unless, if your goal is to direct traffic to your website to get people to fill out a contact form, then that is that point A, which is social media, to point B, your contact form. That's the true metric. And
yeah,
all of these other metrics that we're growing here, views, plays, I mean, they're changing the insights on Instagram as we talk right now, but um, we are not as in control of the metrics that happen over on social, but we are in control of taking that data point from that social media piece over to our website. And we can see that in Google Analytics, right? Like we can see, okay, our Facebook is driving the most traffic, our Instagram is number 2, and our LinkedIn is number 3. But if we're putting the most effort in LinkedIn and we're not getting our result,
yeah.
then we need to change our strategy.
That's good. Yep. Yeah. No, I like that. I like
Mm-hmm.
that.
Yep.
I think, yeah, because like if you like with LinkedIn, to your point, just a little, it's different, right? It's business professionals. So if you're trying
Mm-hmm.
to sell on Instagram, people are gonna
It's
see
not
it.
going to work.
Read
Yeah.
that. Not,
Yeah.
yeah, it's not gonna work.
It's gotta be different.
Yeah,
Gotta be
it's gotta be
different.
different. Absolutely. So back to the question on personality, right? A lot of people don't want to be on the screen, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you get them to inject personality in their content? Like like how do you get them out of their shell to be who they are and, provide valuable information based on who they are to their audience?
I think sometimes, especially if I'm having a face-to-face with a client or I'm doing like a content and a snap session or we're creating content together, it's it's a challenge, but I think sometimes my personality, for whatever reason, makes them feel a little bit more comfortable because I'm kind of quirky. And so like whatever they say is like not going to offend me. And I will, but I'm also listening because I put my audience hat on for them. And I think that's also a really good thing is if you feel like you're talking into a void and you're like, I don't know if this is landing, get someone to sit behind the camera and
Mhm.
pretend like they're in the patient chair and like have the nonverbals, nod your head, like if something isn't resonating, maybe like furrow your brow, like having those conversations on video can help you at least out the gate.
That's
And so that's
good.
what I have found is clients will be like, "Oh, that was such a great session because if you weren't there, I would have felt super awkward." Just me by myself in my office talking to a green light on my laptop, right? So you have to have that level of self-awareness to know inside and out who you are, because I don't know if you've ever had this experience, but how jarring it is when you meet someone offline and they are nothing like their online persona.
Right.
It's so jarring. You're like,
Yeah.
I'm
Whoa.
sorry,
Yep.
what?
Who are you?
So yeah, it's like really weird.
Yeah.
So always be yourself because your audience will see right through it. And as much as I love to hate the word authenticity, you have to show up as your authentic self. And
Yeah.
yes, video, for better or for worse, requires our level of authenticity to be like hyped up 2 notches. Because I don't know about you, but anytime you watch a video, even if you feel like super energized when you're talking, it sometimes ends up very low key. And you're like, what happened?
Yep.
That happens a lot on video. So get excited, know when you're most creative, know when you have less noise in your brain, and go with whatever expertise you already have. Don't stress about scripting because that will fail you every time.
Okay.
Having those bullet points is all you need. Because I tell people all the time, first take is usually the best take, always. I do 2 or 3 takes
Yep.
just so they can understand that the first take is actually the best take.
Right.
Um, and just I say trust what you know.
Yeah.
You're the expert. Tell people why,
Right.
because they won't feel like the expert. So we got to hype them up and tell them what they are.
Yeah. And I love that part of if because it makes it more natural, right? Where if you're
Yeah.
talking one like if you're being recorded and let's say you're a doctor sitting in your chair, like you're talking to someone in the chair, it's more natural because you're in your comfort place, right? Of
Mm-hmm.
educating them on that, let's say, dental implant process or procedure.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're trying to script it out and, be someone you're not, right? And so
Yeah.
like, that is a crucial point right there. And I think, I'm so glad you shared that.
Yeah. And can I say one last thing about video content on social media? It is different than the videos that you put in your waiting room. It's different than the videos you put on your website. It
Yeah.
does not, again, it does not need to be this overly produced piece of content. You can ask your office manager today
Yep.
to have you sit in your patient room and sit there casually in your seat next to the, dental chair and talk to the camera
Yep.
about why you need to consider implants.
Yep. Yeah.
Simple. But it
Yep.
doesn't need to be this big, overly produced, and also, mind you, expensive production.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think the key point there is people are overthinking it.
Yes.
They're just like, I gotta make this so special and to resonate with my audience. But to your point, they want to see the raw you. A lot like
Mm-hmm.
people respond more to emotions,
Yeah,
them knowing if they know who you are and they can see that through the video content, they're just gonna resonate a lot more with that video. So
absolutely.
100% right.
Yeah.
Well, this has been amazing. Karlyn, just from a social media standpoint, you have just provided the audience so much valuable content. Um, if someone wanted to reach out to you, what's the best way to do that?
You can go to snapsocial.com, and there's a little contact form. You can contact me, or you can click on resources, and there's a lot of freebies for you to download. I'm kind of a freebie junkie, so there's quite a library there for you to get some free resources.
Awesome. And we'll include that information in the show notes, so don't hesitate to reach out to Karlyn for her freebies. And we appreciate you so much. Again, I'm Lamar with MedRank Interactive on the Healthcare Digital Marketing Podcast. This is Karlyn with Snap Social. Again, we appreciate your time, and thanks for providing so much valuable content.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.